And you should get a notice that we are live.
I see. Yes, it's live.
Okay, so right now we have 0 viewers, which is fine. We have a few people who said they were going to come, so we'll give them a minute or two, plus possibly Robbie. So we'll see what happens, and then we'll get started, because we can always edit out this first part as we are waiting, and then we'll do the official start, and perhaps people will just watch the recording.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add a message to our saying that we're starting now.
For the Google Doc that I linked to, that I just listed my favorites, should I show that as a screen share, do you think?
It's entirely up to you. So everything is linked in the, oh, look at that. I'm still showing my, sorry about that, ladies. So everything is going to be linked in the agenda, which I was going to share. That link has been shared on the event, and I'll share it in the chat window.
How can I demonstrate how these work, or should I just talk about how they work?
It's entirely up to you. I'm actually just going to talk about how you can access your files offline. If none of you guys cover that, if we do cover it, then I'll just drop that part if it naturally comes up in our conversation. But I'm not going to show it. I have the handout, and I'll say you're welcome to open that up and follow along, but I'm just going to kind of talk about the big pieces of it rather than try to show it. And like I said, this is, I'm going to preface, this is a learning experience. Oh, we do have a viewer now. So let's go ahead and say that we're going to begin. Oh, now we have no viewer. And we have a viewer again. Okay, so this is getting to be interesting. But let's go ahead and start, since it looks like we currently have a viewer. So welcome to GEG Indiana. I should say, let me start that again, because we're not GEG, we're GEG. So welcome to the first online event for GEG Indiana, and because there has been some interest in a lot of folks starting new GAF schools and rolling out Chromebooks, I thought what we would do is a small series called Get Connected, where people who have been working with Google Apps for Education or have already experienced Chromebooks could come in and could share with the group some of their tips and resources. And that way, it's specifically for coaches and different people who are responsible for sharing with their colleagues, can take away some tools that they can start bringing into their own repertoire and start sharing out in their PD and different meetings with teachers. So today's topic is on sharing Drive. And that's going to kind of bleed into docs, obviously, but we're going to start with the big picture of Drive itself. And so what I thought I would do is share this video, which is just a brief overview. The video, of course, won't start. So that's the big picture. And just from that, was there anything that stood out, ladies, that really kind of grabbed your attention of why you first were attracted to Drive? Can
I didn't see the video.
Oh no.
I don't know why. Maria, did you see the video?
I did not.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't. I thought I was trying to click around and see maybe I did something.
Well, that's a shame because I watched it and then I feel badly. So I'll just tell you what stood out for me. As a former English teacher, I don't know if anybody's ever dealt with this. I'm sure other content area teachers do too. But one of the things it talks about in Drive is how no matter what size your file, you can email it with no problems. And I cannot tell you how many times I tried to share a file that was too large, or students tried to share something with me and gave up out of frustration. Normally because they inserted so many pictures in there that the file size was too large, even though it was just a 6-paragraph essay. So Drive takes that away completely. And it takes away a lot of other things. Is there anything, without having watched the video, that off the top of your mind, Drive takes away from you as an educator or as just a person that uses technology?
Yeah, I started using Google about 3 exclusively because of it. I didn't have to update my website. I didn't have to re-upload Word documents. I didn't have to re-upload anything because it was just automatic, and I could update and not have to worry that I was leaving old information on my Moodle site. So that was the main reason I switched, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit. How about you, Maria?
The biggest thing for me was that Google worked with my email. Google would work if I built a Google site. Everything worked together, and I didn't have to have 5, 6 different tools. I could stay within the Google itself.
Exactly. So just a quick overview of some of the reasons we love it, and I'm going to stop rambling on here and really focus on our agenda because we are tight on time, and I don't want to take up any more of Enid's time, but we'll take that back from my end time, so don't feel like you have to stop at your end time, okay? But we do have the agenda, and hopefully everyone can see that on the screen. So we've broken it up into basically 10-minute segments, and each person will focus on things, but organically we're just going to kind of go with this. This is our first Hangout. We're all kind of, well, especially I am learning this process, as you can tell from the video. So bear with us, but we have the question and answers enabled. We also have our chat window open, so if you want to interact with us, please do. We're going to switch to our next slide. We're still waiting for our next presenter to show. However, we'll go ahead and introduce everyone very quickly. And so because today our theme is Drive, I asked every Hangout, I'm going to ask for our presenters to share a fun fact. Because if you go on our GEG group, you're going to see all of their professional credentials. You're going to find out who they are, where they work, what they do, what they're passionate about in education. But you will never find, or at least it's highly unlikely, that you will discover what their dream vehicle is. And so today's fun fact, I asked our presenters to share just a little something about themselves. So I'll start with the ladies and let you introduce yourselves, and then if Robbie's not here, I'll mention his as well. Enid?
Okay, I chose the VW bus because it's classy and recognizable, and it's never gone out of style, no matter how old those get. Even the old rusty ones, people pay attention to, and sometimes we have all these new things that we look to and all these new tools, but sometimes the traditional way is okay. So that bus, the picture that I put on there is actually was just on display at the Children's Museum. It's not one that I owned, but I sure would have liked to have driven that around town.
Awesome, thank you. Maria?
Well, the Porsche that you see pictured, I actually had a Transformer. It was the one and only boy toy I was ever given. But I loved it. I fell in love with it at the store, and my parents gave it to me, and of course all my life I begged for that car. I'll probably never get it, but it's just so sleek and simple and elegant, which is just everything about who I am. So I love that vehicle.
Wonderful. And now I will always think of Maria Sellers as being sleek. That's great. And joining us hopefully in a little bit, I know he's had a busy day supporting the Chromebook rollouts at Wayne Township, but Robbie Grimes will be joining us, and he has a lot of really great Google expertise, and he has shared his dream vehicle as well, and maybe he'll elaborate on that later on. I have to say that mine is a Jag convertible, but the Porsche would probably be a second runner-up. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Enid, who's going to be talking about add-ons.
Okay. One of the hardest things that I had that I have to face when I'm trying to get teachers on board with Google Drive, because we are a Google school, but we're not one-to-one, and so there's no reason for teachers to switch to Google because they're so comfortable with the Microsoft that they've always used, and so they just go to their old files and they don't feel the need to switch, and so it's just one more thing to learn. And one reason is that, well, they say Microsoft has all the nice features and Google doesn't. And one thing I was really excited about this spring when Google released the add-ons was that this is adding all the bells and whistles that I can now show them and maybe use to convince them that they should be considering switching over. And the add-ons, for instance, the first one that I've listed on the resource of my favorites is called EasyBib Bibliography Creator. And I can't wait to show students this tool this fall because it will make their citations, and I'm an English teacher, so in the English classroom, of course, we cite just about everything that we do. So they'll be able to cite very easily, and I think the students will be won over very quickly, probably quicker even than my colleagues, because of that tool alone. So that is my favorite tool out of the new add-ons, and it was one of the earliest, and they continue to add more. Every couple of weeks I see a new add-on or two. Another one that I used early on is called MindMeister, and what you can do with that, you can make a bulleted list with sub-bullets and then turn it into an image, and so many of our students are visual oriented that it's really helpful for them to see how relationships are of information can be put into a mind map. And so you can actually highlight a segment of your text that's in bullet form and use the add-on, and it will turn it into a big mind map for you. So it's really interesting to watch, and you can actually make one from scratch. And I included a link on the Google Doc that I've shared of one that I made from scratch with some BYOD tools. But you don't have to start from scratch. You can use the app itself. Or you can work within your Google Doc and highlight, and then it does it for you, and it inserts it as an image, and it's very quick. So that's pretty neat to see as a tool. Sorry, I have a cat that's walking in front of me. Another one I really like as an English teacher is called Read and Write for Google Text Help. This one is it's got a pull-down menu. And it's what it will do is read text out loud to you, and you can also use the highlighter, and you can highlight the text, and it will collect those highlights. If you want to highlight keywords, it will collect those in a separate document. So you're able to capture keywords that you've pulled from a text, maybe main ideas, and then isolate those over in another document. So you can use your own writing, or you could pull in a text from somewhere else. So that one's really a nice, it's got a lot of versatility, and it does have a free version, although there are some paid features that they've got. Another one that I like is the thesaurus. One of the bells and whistles I know that people complain about with Google Drive is, well, I can't right-click and pick up my thesaurus tools or my dictionary tools, but you can now because that's an add-on. If you just right-click on it and go find the thesaurus add-on, it'll work just like Microsoft. So that's a nice little feature that people were missing, and it's in there now.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second because I want to mention for our viewer that we do have the agenda shared, and the resources that you're sharing are all listed in there. They're all linked, and so they can access those and interact with them right now. Sorry to interrupt, but just in case, I don't think I was concentrating on something else earlier, and so I didn't think I actually mentioned that. So sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. Another add-on that I like to use is the template gallery, and students like to be able to create, if they have to do a business letter or a resume, whatever it is that they'd like, there is a template gallery now in there. So instead of using publisher, so it's a nice option that students were missing when we were trying to use publisher. Now publisher, you're just tied to the machine that it's loaded on. So this is a nice free version, and I know Word has the templates too, but now Google has those template gallery. There's also Open Clip Art, and it's the free open source that you don't have to worry about citing or the copyright issues. So that's called Open Clip Art. And then another is Glyphy diagrams. You can use, I don't use a lot of flowcharts, but occasionally if I want to, again, make something into an image for students, sometimes they like to see text in a different way. It kind of reaches them better depending on what we're doing. It's maybe a flowchart of a process that they have to go through for even doing a research paper. Sometimes it helps to put it in a chart instead of just text with bullet points. So that's called Glyphy diagrams. And then there is a chart creator that you can take text from a spreadsheet and turn it into different types of charts, pie charts or bar charts, but I don't need to use that one a lot because I use Google Forms, which does it for me when I am looking at the results from Google Forms, so I don't need to create my own charts all that often. Let's see, what else do I have? There is one called Pro Writing Aid. I like that there are some free features in there, and I wish that they would open up the paid features because those would be pretty helpful. But it will check your document for consistency, like quotation marks, single or double, or the font. It will check for if you have acronyms. It will tell you, and it will tell you if you've defined the acronym at all. It will. What else does it do? Oh, it tells you if your wording is too stuffy. It will tell you if there are words that maybe need to be simplified. It will give you some suggestions as your writing style. So it's interesting to see what it pulls up. So that one's called Pro Writing Aid. And then there's one more called Workflows, and this one is instead of just using revision history. Let's say that you have a group leader who needs to approve all the changes in a document. This one you can have someone approve after you've made changes, but the changes don't go into effect until the leader gets a hold of it through workflows. And so that person can accept or reject changes instead of them just becoming automatic. So that's a nice. I'm going to try that one with my students. Especially the ones in larger groups who are maybe 3 or 4 who are sharing a document, because sometimes it's hard to. It's always, I think, hard for them to keep track of what's been changed and what's been added and edited. So I'll put someone in charge of being the final editor using that add-on. So those are just a few that I haven't used a lot yet. They just came out in March, so I've been using mainly the MindMeister and the EasyBib creator so far. But school just started, so I'll be adding to the students' toolboxes as soon as the time's appropriate. So and Classroom I've been using too. I know it's not an add-on, but Google Classroom has been going really well. There are some things that I'd like them to add, and I know it's brand new, and I've been sending them suggestions. For instance, the students' names are alphabetical by first name, but in my grade book they're last name, and I can't find them, and so I sent a suggestion that they allow me to sort by last name. So just some little things like that. But as far as sharing and collecting, it's been really nice. It's been just seamless and quick and easy, and
That's
the students
great.
haven't had any trouble using it.
That's always good to hear. I actually was in Mountain View a few weeks ago and got to hear from the team that's working on Classroom, and they assured us that they want to hear feedback. And what you just shared about the names was already on the list, but keep sending that kind of feedback because they want to make some changes. And they're not trying to be a robust LMS right now. They're trying to meet some basic needs. So in just a few minutes after Robbie present, and don't worry about time because we're just going to scrap my 10 minutes. It's perfectly okay. All the resources are there. But Maria will actually share maybe some ways that you can use Drive rather than LMS or Classroom. But if you are using Classroom, that might be something we look at later on for a conversation.
Right.
So, Robbie, thank you for being so patient. Before I turn it over to you, and the only thing I didn't do earlier when we shared, you probably saw that, I didn't explain your card choice. So that might be something you choose to do. But I want to answer Tony's question. Tony's like, our one viewer. Yay, Tony. He says, am I the only viewer? Yes. Yes, sir, you are. But you know what? That's okay because this is our first time out. We're going to be sharing this publicly. So while you might be the first and only live viewer, we hope to have lots of viewers come to the archive and take advantage of this. And I'm really glad to say that he has indicated he can see the Google Docs, so he can follow along with our resources. So thank you, Tony, for letting us know, and feel free to add more questions as they come up. Okay, Robbie, I'm going to turn over to you.
Well, fantastic. I apologize for not being able to be on in the very beginning. I've used Google Hangouts quite a bit, but not really sure why I wasn't able to get on. But it's still brand new to me, even though I've used it quite a bit.
Well, I can tell you really quickly, just for anyone that wants a quick insight, with Hangout on air, you have to be invited as inside of the Hangout as well as through the live link. And so when I opened the Hangout and before we went live, I invited everybody again, but I used your Google Plus circle, who I have in my circles. And when I sent it to your school email, that's how you eventually did get in, when I realized you were locked out. So it's just it's almost like you have a double invites rather than just a single invite.
Sure.
Live and learn.
Okay. I also wanted to show you that there's a Google Effects tool, and you can go like this and do things like this and make real funny hats on yourself, and you could do that for like hours and play with stuff like that. So keep that in mind while you're playing and doing stuff like that. But it's really kind of cool. Anyway, I wanted to share my screen with you, so I'm hoping that I can do this and share, and that you guys can see kind of everything that's going on my screen. Can you see the stuff that's on my screen?
Yep, we sure can. Oh,
fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to talk about extensions, and extensions are a little bit different than apps. And even at the bottom of this agenda, there's even a link that I saw that maybe Michelle you put out there about the difference between Chrome apps and extensions. The interesting thing is when I'm working with students at my district at Wayne Township, there's a lot of confusion as to what apps are, because people tend to know what apps are just because of their experience with them on their phones. When in actuality on Chrome, an app really isn't an app. It's really kind of just a web link to a website. And so it's really simplistic, but it works like an app works. That's what's really kind of the cool part about it. But really, when you kind of look at extensions are really kind of apps. But honestly, what they really are is like a plug-in for a browser, if you're familiar with what that is. And I have several of the extensions that I'm going to talk about are on the top right-hand side of my Chrome browser. All the extensions are kept right up here in the top right side of your browser. And I've got a list in here. I put on the agenda, I put Robbie's favorite extensions. These are extensions that I use almost daily. I will use these. Some of them more than others, but I honestly use these almost daily. They're not necessarily in order of how I use them, but some student use, some in personal and professional use. But as I go down the list, you'll kind of see how these kind of work. The read and write for Google extension is one that actually is not listed up here. It kind of works in the background, and what it is there's a tool that our school district uses called Solo that has read out loud and write out loud and co-writer and some other tools in it that our special ed department uses. And this read and write for Google tool allows you to use some really good voices to be able to have a website read to you. But not only that, the Pro version, which you can get free for 30 days, and by the way, teachers can get the Pro version for free for an entire year. So I would recommend that you take a look at that if you want to use it. But you can get the full version. It's $100 for the full version, but the free version does almost everything you would need it to do, except for this one piece, which is word prediction. And that's the piece that our special ed teachers really like and want for their students. And so we're looking into, you can, like, I just looked into pricing, and it's like $100 a year for per user, up to 15 users, I believe. But then you can get 150 users for $1,500. And so the price break is huge if you get the 150 users. But the Read and Write for Google is a fantastic extension that just kind of pops up when you are on a particular website. So if I'm hoping it's installed on this, or I mean working on this particular machine. Well, you know what? Let me pick a different website. I'm hoping when I go to like to Edutopia, if I scroll down here and highlight over top of this, what's supposed to happen is this little pop-up shows up down here. And when I click on some of the, oh, you know what? This is my Digo extension. Sorry about that. This is not the Read and Write for Google. I'm not sure that I have Read and Write for Google enabled on this particular account. So I will go in here and show you where these are. Go into Settings. If you could do the, I've been told that this little button up here in the top right is called the hamburger. But if you click on there and go down to Settings, you'll get to this page, and you can go to Extensions right here. In the Extensions list, you'll see that I have quite a few listed here. But Read and Write for Google is one that's in here. You'll see I have Glyphy on here as well for diagrams and things. I'm trying to see if I can find Read and Write for Google if it's even enabled, and it's not. So let me enable it like that. Go back to Edutopia and click Accept. I got rid of it because as I was using using web pages every day, some of the tools were getting in my way because I didn't necessarily want those particular tools. So I should be able to highlight over top of here, and it's not popping up anyway. Let me check this out because the app or the extension also shows up here in your URL bar, and that is supposed to be a tool also that you can use to use the tool. But you click on your highlight over top of your area, and then when you click a button, it ends up reading it for you out loud. So you can use this for UDL, but you could also use it for your special ed students. And then when you're in an area where you're typing information, it will pop up word prediction for those students who either have issues with spelling or either have issues with fine motor skills, and they can get like the first couple of letters and they can type in those first couple of letters. So that's Read and Write for Google. I want to get to the other one, so I don't want to stick too long on this one. Next one is web page screenshot, and I'm going to go here and use my web page screenshot tool, which is my first one that I have listed here. It's a little camera. I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to go down to visible screenshot and show you visible screenshot or all page screenshot. What this will do is it'll take just an image of what you see, or it will take an entire screenshot of the entire web page and pull it in. So this is good for students who are maybe using Chromebooks who don't have web internet access. They could grab this, use this all-page screenshot of some text or images or whatever, and then they have access to that page that they can use during research or for whatever reason in the off times when they don't have internet access. But one of the really cool tools that I found with this particular one is that you can go in and click Edit Content, and when I click OK right here, I can do something like this. So I can actually edit this web page. And what's really kind of cool about this is that if I do go to something like CNN, and I'm kind of nervous about going to CNN because of some of the content that might be here. However, U.S. officials say American died. So if I go like this, I could change edit and click Edit Content, and I could change Fighting for ISIS in so I could do something like that, and I can change this headline, then take a screenshot. So your students could really take a web page, and modify some things on that web page and make it look like it's, broadcast news. Now that's fantastic, where students are kind of getting some bolstering in their ideas and things like that. However, it also could be used for evil. So keep that in mind as you're using that particular extension. But
great lesson for digital citizenship there. That responsibility piece, yeah.
Exactly. So it's an unbelievable tool when I saw that you could actually edit a web page. Now, you're not actually editing the web page. You're editing the view that you see of the web page. So you're not really changing history by doing that. Another extension I wanted to show you was TechSmith's Snagit website or extension. And TechSmith's Snagit extension allows you to take a screenshot and do some of those similar things. But what it will do is it will then take that image and then put it directly into Google Drive. So if I go into my Google Drive here and I scroll down, I can see that I've got a TechSmith folder that when you install the extension and the app, you need to have those two together so that you can annotate over top of the, and I put that in the document, so you can annotate over top of your pictures if you'd like to make like some tutorial type images. But then when you double click or open up your folder, it then pulls up this folder right here that has all of your screencasts or screenshots in it from TechSmith. So it drops them right into Google, where you can then into your Google Drive, where you can then use them in presentations and things like that. The next one is Save to Google Drive, and honestly, this has been one that has absolutely saved me. I want to say hours, but probably minutes, but a lot of minutes. If I go to just google.com and I type in and do an image search for something like digital citizenship and do an image search for that, there are lots of images out here that we use all the time. This is one that's relatively popular. If I take this one right here, if I right-click on this image, hopefully you can see my right mouse menu that came up. If I right mouse on this, the extension, now that I'm using Chrome and I have this extension installed, the extension now gives me an item down here called Save to Google Drive. And so now all I have to do is click Save Image to Google Drive. When I do, this item pops up. It's saving the image directly to my Google Drive into a folder that I've pre-selected. So it takes this image, puts it in here. Now this is called Digital Citizenship Logo.jpg, but I also have the option to rename it right here in this window, where I could say Digital Citizenship Logo, and I could do this and just click Apply. Now I'm done. I'll close, go back here into my Google Drive, and I have an item that's called Images, or a folder that's called Images that I have saved. Now if I go down here, I've got this Digital Citizenship Logo.jpg right here that now is saved in my Google Drive. So without having to go to, I mean, typically you'd have to go to the web, right-click on it, save picture as, save it to your desktop, upload it to Google, all that mess. You don't have to do that anymore. Now, in the mindset of digital citizenship, certainly I would then go find the source of this image and make sure that I have the source of this image documented so I can put that into my presentation I was using as well, so that I'm not plagiarizing all of these images. However, that's my little gratuitous plug for digital citizenship. That's saved to Google Drive. Split screen is one where if you open a new tab, you click on the split screen tool, and now, hocus pocus, I have two side-by-side windows. And I could put a URL over here. I could do, actually, let me do it over here. Edutopia.org. Over here, I can either open a new website on this side, a Google Doc, or I could just go right down here and start taking some notes from the website that's on the right-hand side. So yes, I could go ahead like this and grab this tab, pull this tab down here like this, and pull this out as a separate window. But that means me, you know, moving some windows around and all that stuff, when all I have to do really is click the split screen button, and hocus pocus. I have two windows open in the same tab, and I can take notes over here. I can copy paste from here and put it into a Google Doc if I want. I can open the Google Docs on the left-hand side. So there's all kinds of stuff that I can do with split screen, which is incredibly helpful. The last two, Digo and Screencastify. If you're not familiar with Digo, I would highly recommend that you get familiar with it or something like it, something like Delicious or something like it that is a social bookmarking tool. If you look up here in the top right-hand side on my extension list, this little D is my Digo tool. So if I happen to go out here and go to edutopia.org, I notice that there's a little tiny red bookmark that shows up on the Digo link, which means I've already saved this one. But what I could do is I can go down here and 4 tools for helping you go paperless this year. I click into this link right here and I think, oh man, I'd really like to keep this somewhere. Instead of bookmarking it and leaving it in a big long list on my browser, even in Google Chrome, I could save this into my Digo list right directly from my browser. So I don't have to go to Digo, copy paste the link or anything like that. I can do it right here within my browser, and I input tags. So I tag this particular tool so that here's paperless, here's Edutopia. I know it's that. I know it's a tool. I know it's an article. And then when I click save, if I ever want to go back to this item, I know that what was that Edutopia article? It was on paperless, go on paperless or something like that. I can go into my Digo account, type in paperless, and boom, this article will come up. Simply based on the fact that I've tagged it and kept it in my Digo list. So that's my gratuitous plug for Digo and how fantastic it is and how I use it. Now this last one, when we first got Chromebooks at Wayne Township, we didn't really have a way for our students to show what they know by using some type of recording tool or a screen capture tool, because most of them dealt with Java, and since you know that Java doesn't particularly work very well or at all on a Chromebook, that was kind of a problem. So what we did was we searched and searched, and eventually someone came out with a screencasting tool for Chrome. This particular one is called Screencastify. So what I can do is I can click the Screencastify tool, and I can just start recording, and it works very much like you see the microphone green button moving, and I want to capture a tab or to capture the desktop. I can embed the webcam video right in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen if I want to, and so it records and captures video. So you can either create a flipped classroom type environment where you would use your desktop and teach your lesson like that and use that video for a flipped lesson, or you can have your students make little mini lessons or tutorials for themselves showing what they know and also using that information to teach other students. Because as we all know, if we can teach someone how to do something, we truly, really understand what it is that we're teaching in the first place. So that is my list of extensions, hopefully in about 5 or 10 minutes. And the Porsche that is on the first page right here is there simply because as when I was a kid, that's the kind of car that I wanted. And it was a 911. I really didn't care what kind it was. I wanted it to be convertible so I could see the stars and have the wind blowing through my hair. And I particularly like the fact that it has a tail fin. That's about it. It's not really a real reason other than that's the car that I wanted since when I was a little kid. I've had posters on them on my walls when I was little and when I was a teenager. And that's why I think it's a cool car. So that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Robbie. And that makes 2 of you that have childhood favorites. So I think it's pretty neat. We have more than one commonality here. So I'm going to bring a question up from the group. Oh, look at that, double me. A question up from Tony. He asked, have you used Kaizenna? I pronounced this wrong, I'm sure. Kaizenna. Say that again?
Kaizenna.
Kaizenna.
Fantastic tool.
So he wants to know how easy it is, and he asks about the reliability. Great questions.
I've dabbled in it, and I've used it a little bit with teachers. I don't think there's a whole lot of use, especially in my school district. But every time when we talk about teachers being able to give audio feedback in documents, everyone talks about Kaizenna. So I can't speak actually to its reliability. I know that it's easy. It's just a couple clicks. When you're in there, you can highlight over top of some text, and then you record it, and it embeds it right there in the Google Doc. And then when the student gets the Google Doc back, they can click on it, and they can hear your voice, which makes it a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Makes your comments back to your student a little more credible. That's what I was looking for, because they're actually in your voice. So yeah, it's a fantastic tool. I would highly recommend you look into it.
Yeah, there's a definite added value of authenticity because you don't have the tone that you can't capture that in written form in the way you can by doing an audio recording. So I also wanted to add that Robbie have a comment from Tony, and he says, I used to use Digo, but now with Evernote and Web Clipper, I hardly ever use Digo anymore. Oh, my heart broke just a little tiny bit, but I understand. I was a Digo evangelist from the get-go, but you know what? You're right. There are so many tools that have come into play. It really is a matter of finding what works best for you and your students, and sometimes even in your learning community. If your learning community is really adopting one tool, you want to lean towards that for some consistency. Although older students can handle a little more variety and letting them choose be more self-selective, but Absolutely. There are lots of great choices out there. Thank you. I'm really glad that you're interacting with us, Tony. This is great. In just a minute, I'd like to invite you in if you're interested so that you can actually ask questions at the end. I'm going to turn it over to Maria so she can start her presentation. She looks like she's ready to go.
Fantastic. So we have My Big Campus here at South Vermilion, and we also now have Google Classroom just taking storm. But I have some teachers, math teachers, art teachers, who say, you know what, after a lot of trial and error, I don't really fit in a learning management system, which I agree. In some cases, it just doesn't work. Like our art teacher, they use InDesign and the Adobe Suite. Those files necessarily aren't friendly with the LMS that we offer to them. So we've now just taken it back and made it simple. So we use this Google Drive approach. And even today, you know, with teachers who aren't techie at all, this is working really well, and they're happy, and it's working. So the first trial, which failed miserably, the teacher just made a folder and shared it with all of her students, and of course we know what happens. Students get in other students' work, and no longer do we have anything that's supposed to be there. So we then just took the approach of having each student create a folder and made sure that their last name was there, the class, and then what period it was in. And on this document, I have all of the steps. And if you want to follow along, but I'll try to sum it up pretty quickly. So then what we did was the teacher created a folder in her Google Drive and then drug each kid's from the appropriate period into her specific class folder. And it's been working really well. They just go into that folder, look for the particular file, and comment on it. I know that thus far they're only using a simple editing tool, but I think I found one to share with them now as of right now. So it's simple, it's straightforward, but then again, it just saves that teacher who just cannot use a learning management system.
Excellent. And you gave some really valid reasons for why this would meet certain people's needs.
Definitely. It's saved us a lot of heartache this year. So,
for someone who checks in later on for the archived version of this, what would be something that you would caution them to pay attention to as they are teaching their students how to share folders, or even if they were working with teachers and showing them how to start sharing folders with each other? What are some cautionary advice pieces you might give them?
Definitely don't share with anyone who you might even question. You know, what I said, if you have to think twice about sharing this folder with someone, then don't share it. Because definitely that tells me that somewhere along the line someone has done something. So the other big thing with teachers, I said, only share what the students need and don't go any further. The more you add to that folder, the more overwhelmed they are. So keep it simple and trust your instinct.
I like the advice to give recommendations for what needs to be copied. Have any of you guys had that problem where you've had a shared folder and an original document was taken and adapted and removed basically from the group? Has anyone ever experienced that? You guys, I look so stoic. That never happens in our school. Never happens on our team.
That is why you really need to make sure that you understand the sharing abilities, and the fact that when you share, there's two steps. The first one is who you share it with, and the second one is what kind of access that who you share it with has. So that we've tried to impress that upon people, but they still have issues of this got messed up, or I shared this out in the wrong place, and the fact that the share when you share an item, there are 5 different ways in Google Apps for Education that you can share things on that list. And we had people who, the middle way is that you share it with your domain, and they can find and access it. But we had people selecting that one, and when you find and access it, people still can't access it if they have the link. They can search for it in the domain, but the problem ends up being they don't know how to go search for it, because we've never really talked about how to go out and search for it. And so we've told all of our teachers that, because we're in the Google Apps for Education domain, make sure that you use the link share with anybody in our domain with the link, or to invite people individually. Those bottom two. The very top one is to use a link with the entire, or no, the top one is public, but the next one down is to use a link in general. And that provides access for anonymity, which we try to strongly suggest against, because we don't want people accessing these documents and being anonymous, because there's some security issue with that. And then if you make sure that they're logging in with your domain and with their username and password, then you know that if there's a change made or something like that, you can go back to history and look at the history of that particular document and be able to identify who made those changes.
Yeah, some really good points there. Again, back to that digital citizenship. Don't you just love that here we are having a Drive and Docs talk, and digital citizenship is everywhere, as is literacy. So, I love that this demonstrates how it's all in context. None of this is supposed to be separate conversations. Awesome way to start our GEG discussions. I think that's fabulous. I went ahead and I invited Tony in, but I don't know that he got that invite. But thought if he wanted to go ahead and ask questions directly, that might be something he'd be interested in doing. I know we have 2 viewers now, so if the other viewer has questions, you're certainly welcome to use the question and answer bar. And if you want to be invited in, just let me know, and I'll do that as well. So what I was going to share, I'm just going to pare back to maybe a 2-minute deal. And I love this because Robbie already kind of alluded to this. A lot of times, especially with Chromebooks, the question comes up with, well, what good is this when you're offline? What happens when you go offline at school? And even if you're not on a Chromebook, there's always that question of, what do you do when you lose your internet connection? And that's one of the things I love about Drive, that they have really responded to these concerns. And now you have the offline option, where it's basically like walking around with a 5 GB flash drive in your pocket all the time. You never have to remember to pack it. You can't. It's impossible to lose. It's always there for you, backing up your information. So if you log on and you don't have an online connection, if you're using Chrome, or another reason to use Chrome browser, I'll just mention that. So if Chrome or Chrome device, such as the Chromebook or any of those Chrome iOSs, tablets, whatever you're using at school, you have access to that offline tool. So a couple of things to remember. If you're a GAF school, you need to make sure that your administrator has turned that possibility on, because that is an option, and they can shut that off. But beyond that, it's just a matter of looking at your Drive settings. So if you're in a new Drive, it's automatically set up. You just go into your settings under your gear icon. You'll see that there's a box for the offline option. You just check it. It gives you a little warning. Remember, don't do this if you're on a public or shared computer. Common sense kind of dictates that, but just in case. They give you a nice little legal warning there. And then if you're in the old Drive, which I'm not sure why you would be, although I know some people are a little nervous about the new Drive not functioning as smoothly as the old Drive. But if you're in the old Drive, maybe you like classic still, there's a little bit more involved. You have to go in and add the app, and then give that permission to function with your device, but it works the same way. And so anyhow, I put the handout link in our agenda so you can go through. It's a perfect step-by-step. And at the time of the link that I shared was published, slides presentation wasn't yet an offline option. But because the Slides app just rolled out this week, I venture to say before the end of the month that it will also be an offline option. So that's me just having trust in the Googlers. So anyhow, for sure, Google Docs and Google Sheets can be saved offline or worked on offline, and as soon as you go back on and have a connection, it is synced. So all of that work is on all of your devices again. The one thing to remember, second reminder, so the GAF school, make sure that your administrator has that option available to you. The other thing is, this is not you do it on one device and you're good to go. You have to actually touch all your devices and make sure, so on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop, whatever you're using in your work with Drive, you want to make sure each device has been enabled to work with offline. So And I love that, the web page screencast. That was new to me. So that was my kind of like mind blown moment today, especially the idea of, I love the power of manipulating a website. I think that's the old English teacher in me gets all excited because so many amazing lessons there. But also because it reinforces the power of these devices and using Drive and using Chrome and not always having to be online. So with that, I want to go ahead and let me share my screen again, only because it has a link to our feedback form. So this was our first Hangout. It was a little wonky. We had a few clunky spots, but I think for a first run, could have been worse. And really, truly appreciate everybody, both attendees and presenters' patience with me as our host. But definitely appreciate the presenters because I know you put in a full day at school today and then came home or still at work, some of you, and then contributed in this way as well. So I have a feedback survey. We're going to do this at all of our Hangouts. So this form will be kind of an ongoing form. It will give us a chance to really go back and evaluate what's working and how we can improve. But right now, I just wanted to open it up to some questions on our content, and then if you just want to share thoughts too on what we might want to tackle as our next topic, I'd love to hear your ideas. So Tony, welcome to the live portion of the Hangout. Good to see you in person. Any thoughts or questions that you'd like to share now?
No. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Actually, I was here for two reasons, of course, to hear the content about Google Groups, or Google Docs, I should say. But also, I've been watching, the Google Hangouts thing, and I'm also on the listserv for several Google Groups, and I was just kind of curious to see, you said it was your first attempt, so it looks like it works pretty well, and it's something that I would like to use more of. So I've not been involved with an actual Google Hangout before, Skype and other things like that, yeah, but not a Google one. So I thought it went well.
Welcome. Now, are you an Indiana educator, or did you just find us randomly?
No, well, Michelle, you don't remember. We were in New Orleans together from CIS.
Okay. Yes. Absolutely.
I retired from CISC last year, and I'm working with several school districts on a consulting basis now.
Very cool. That's why the name sounded familiar.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony. And now I'm going to be putting you in a circle. So great. Well, you are more than welcome to join the GEG Indiana as, still an honorary Hoosier educator.
Well, I did already.
Oh, you did? Okay. When we hit 300, I started losing track of who was who. Yeah. I actually had to go check today to make sure Maria was a member because I thought, I think she is, but I don't know that I've looked at her on there. So then thank you because she is. But any other thoughts or just feedback in general from you guys?
I think it worked well. I'd like to see how we can get a little more popularity with these. We're investigating this type of format for some things we're doing in Wayne Township, and we're going to use Adobe Connect, which is a tool that we use. It's a video conferencing tool, and we're looking at ways that we can make them more highly attended for some things. And we're going to record them and put them out there. But I will tell you, I have several of these that I put out called Speedy PD for our students. Our teachers. And I did get an email from a teacher just this week saying, hey, I'm glad you put those recordings out there. I was able to go back and look at the recording for one of the topics that you had mentioned, and it was very helpful. Thanks for putting that out there. So certainly, just because it was just us and Tony doesn't mean that people can't go out and grab this link and learn from what we put out here and talked about today.
Absolutely, I agree. And I actually will be filling a report with the GEG leaders, and so I'll submit the link to our event, which will have the recording to this. And so that goes into our documentation. You never know who's going to be watching. We're certainly going to share it in the group, but you know, there's room for improvement on your host part, but I, again, just can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody working together today. Adobe Connect is something I used with my student tech teams when I was with Evansville, and we had a district-wide middle school team. Twice a week, we opened up a live meeting, and the kids, you know, we interacted because they didn't see each other at school. They attended different schools, but even in the same school, students didn't see each other. And it was a phenomenal experience. So have a whole year's worth of meetings that we archived, and it was always interesting. Parents watched them, some of the teachers watched them, definitely kids who missed out watched it because they commented on it at the next meeting. So great tool. Okay, well, you guys have had a long day, so if we're good, I'm going to go ahead and stop broadcasting and say one final thank you. Everybody, thumbs up, everybody's good?
Yep. Thanks a lot for organizing, Michelle.
Oh, no problem. And definitely, if you're interested, we'll be doing this again. I'll be putting a survey out so we can drum up some more interest. But be thinking about suggestions, and definitely don't hold back. The survey is anonymous, so you can speak truth. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Bye.